Moving on to the next story, talking about malware, but malware of a different sort. Instead of running on IoT devices and vulnerabilities in those, I guess there's been some recent malware targeting point-of-sale systems, Jim?
Yeah. We talk about these, it seems like every other month or so there's another report of malware targeting point-of-sale devices. And this one was actually a report that came from Trend Micro. They discovered a family of malware that they're calling Malum POS. This malware at the moment is targeting a particular brand of POS device, point-of-sale devices that Oracle acquired last year. But the interesting thing about this malware is that it disguises itself as NVIDIA video drivers. That's again, most of these point-of-sale devices are embedded Windows XP. I'm not sure if this particular brand is XP or if it's embedded Windows 7, but a lot of them are still XP. And so you're going to look for, if you're even looking at what processes are running on there, you see the display drivers. Well, NVIDIA is a typical driver that you're going to have, type of video card, so type of video drivers you're going to have in there. And it actually it scrapes memory looking for the credit card information, the stuff on the magnetic tracks. It's got a couple of regular expressions that it uses to look for the track 1 and track 2 data off the magnetic strips, and it looks for it in up to 100 different processes. So it's actually rather robust, and while it appears that this particular one was targeted at that particular line of POS devices that Oracle just acquired, the program appears to have capabilities that it could target other things, other POS devices than that, and potentially, as I said, it's looking for 100 different processes, so lots of different types of software running on the POS device that it's aware of and knows to look for their particular memory footprint and look for the credit card info in that memory footprint. So this particular family has a lot of capabilities that, or appears to have a lot of capabilities that it might not be tapping yet. So it looks like this is one that's under active development and is one to keep an eye on. The report from Trend Micro actually has some really good stuff, and it's only about 12 pages long. So if you are into this kind of thing, I highly recommend that you actually go and read the whole report. They've got Yara signatures in there. They show the regular expressions that they're using to try to detect the track 1 and track 2 info. So it's helpful to understand. If you're like me, it wasn't entirely clear on what the format of this track 1 and track 2 data is. The report actually goes into how they're looking for that. So some interesting stuff. The data that they extract, then they use a simple substitution cipher and store it on the device in a file that's got a name that looks like an NVIDIA DLL, but is actually just a data file. And it isn't clear to me exactly when they or how they attempt to exfiltrate the data again. That's a part of this that I haven't actually studied in detail yet. But so there are some indicators of compromise that could be used here to look for this stuff. But it's as I said, it looks to be a piece of malware that's under active development, and it has some capabilities that, while they're not particularly super advanced, are worth keeping an eye on.
Right, right. Stan and I actually yesterday were playing around with this malware. Well, I shouldn't say playing around. We're analyzing it in Ollie debug and stepping through the code, just trying to figure out if there is some kind of command and control that they relay the stuff back up to. I didn't get very far yesterday with it, but an interesting aside that maybe you could look for if you're kind of a novice user, an easy thing to go look for is Jim mentioned that it registers a service as the NVIDIA driver. I forget the full title, but it's like NVIDIA something something driver, but the E in driver is a 3 that they use, so it's DRIV3R. So that's a very obvious tell if you actually go look at your control panel services on your Windows machine. You see that, then you might want to go take a closer look to make sure that you don't have this on there. Interesting piece of malware though. This point of sale stuff is, it's really kind of come into its own in terms of a flavor of malware. We talk about lots of flavors of malware like ransomware and some of these crimeware, and then now point of sale has kind of come into its own as its own kind of family, so to speak, of a malware family. So, gotta keep an eye out for it, and if you do have point of sale systems, make sure you have tight security around them. Sometimes people overlook them, just like they overlook the IoT devices, I think, because they just assume it's just this thing that I bought from somebody, I'm going to put it on my network, I'm going to trust that whoever I bought this from did their due diligence in terms of getting it secured. But sometimes they did, it's just what you did around it, you kind of left it a little too open. So in any event.
That's one of the things that every time one of these new point of sale things comes up, we talk about it. Your point of sale devices need to be on their own isolated network, where they're not on. Most of the time, they really shouldn't be talking to the internet. They should be talking just to, their back office components and that kind of thing. Even though these are Windows devices, you don't really want to allow web browsing and that kind of thing from your point of sale devices. So, there are ways that you can isolate them and lock them down to protect yourself a little bit. But as you said, it's not clear from the report how the malware gets on there either. So we saw in one of the big ones, I think it was the Target one from a couple of years ago, where it was pushed out from the management side to the point of sale device. It might not have been Target. I don't remember now, but so. A lot of pieces that need to be secured, but one of the things you can do is isolate them to the extent possible from the rest of your network.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
Well, they'll still need to call out to validate credit cards and things like that, but if you know what you're doing, you can still...
Yeah, and that might go through some other centralized server or something too. I don't know how they, some of these things get deployed, so the individual point of sale machines might not go right out to a credit card.
So if you've got 2 or 3 terminals in your restaurant, for example, you may have a master that it all goes
Possibly.
out.
I don't know how it's deployed, but you have a good point though. You could isolate it and still firewall it off so that it can only talk to the credit card authorization service and not to anything else. So that's always a good practice.